Good evening, everyone. We are going to begin. So if you haven't found a seat yet, there are some seats up front. Don't be afraid of me. That was to my husband. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for participating in this evening's event. For those of you who have just arrived, my name is Dawn Tomlinson, and I am a proud resident of Fort Langley, recently retired from the Langley School District. I have been asked to moderate this evening, likely as my career in education included being the principal of Langley Secondary for many years. I think the organizers felt that if I could control an assembly of over 1,000 teenagers, I could handle tonight's forum. So the purpose of this evening is to hear from our candidates regarding issues that matter to our community, to better inform ourselves when we vote in October. So this evening we will be hearing from the candidates for school trustees and for mayor. We would like to begin this evening's program by acknowledging that we are honored to gather on the unceded, ancestral, and traditional territories of the Coast Salish people, specifically the Kwantlen First Nation, who have been stewards of this land since time immemorial. Thank you to the Fort Langley Community Association and its volunteers for organizing and hosting this important event in our community. We are a community association of volunteers who meet on every second Tuesday of the month here in the community hall. We've handed out an information brochure, and if you didn't get one, they're up at the welcome table. So please sign up for our newsletter for more details. We would love to see you attend. I also want to just a special note that there is a display. Stu, can you just raise your hand over there? There's a display with regards to the water issues in Fort Langley. Stu has done a lot of work on preparing a report, and Brent, and they would be more than happy to answer any questions. So thank you. We are also live streaming this event, so a big shout out to All-in-One Productions for making this happen. Thank you to all the candidates who have taken the time to participate this evening. So I just want to talk a little bit about decorum for this evening. We expect everyone this evening to behave in a respectful manner. That's everyone. Candidates are expected to speak in a courteous manner, are to avoid inflammatory statements and name-calling, and are only permitted to speak when it's their turn. This is me being a control freak. Candidates and audience members, please refrain from making any sounds or gestures that may be considered distracting while others are speaking. Failure to behave appropriately will result in a warning. This is the principal coming out in me. Continued infractions will result in that person being asked to leave the meeting out of respect for those that are here this evening to learn about the candidates that could be serving our community. We have a tight time frame this evening. We're going to hear from the trustees first, and then we're going to move on to the mayor candidates. So as such, we're going to ask you not to applaud or make comments after each person has spoken. So we are asking all in all, for a respectful decorum this evening. So the format for this evening, we are going to begin with hearing from the school trustee candidates from 6:30 to 7:30. The format will be similar for the mayor candidates, who we will be hearing from starting at 7:45. However, they will have a little bit longer to introduce themselves and to respond to questions. So there's three pieces to this. First of all, we are going to begin with introductions of each of the candidates. They have 45 seconds to introduce themselves. It's a strict timing. We have a timer in front. And so when you see the yellow card, that means you only have 15 seconds left. And then the mic will be turned off at 45 seconds. And you will hand the mic to the person to your left. When we get to the question and response period, again, you will have 45 seconds for each response, a yellow card giving you 15 seconds remaining, and then the mic will turn off at 45 seconds. And finally, they will be given the opportunity to do a closing, and they will have 30 seconds to do a closing. So we will begin with the school trustee candidates introducing themselves. So we're going to draw the first name for the first person who is going to introduce themselves. And I'm just going to give you a couple other reminders as I read out the name. Holly Dickinson will begin, and then we will be going next to her, so to her left. So a reminder, you have 45 seconds. Please state your name at the beginning. Again, a reminder to the audience to please hold applause in consideration of the time. And go.
All right. Hi there. My name is Holly Dickinson. I am a teacher, and I am a longtime resident in Langley. I moved here when I was 6 years old, grew up in Brookswood, and attended K-12 there. Currently, I teach grade 7 in Cloverdale, and I'm hoping that my current boots-on-the-ground experience, along with a passion for diversity, inclusion, equity, and equality, and a willingness to learn and listen and work with all the partner groups, will bring value to the board, to the students, staff, and families. Thank you.
Okay, and we're just going to give the timer time to reset. And
Thank you, and thank you all for coming. My name's Charlie Fox. I'm a 49-year resident of this community. I moved here in 1973 to take a teaching job, and I worked for 33 and a half years in the system. I worked in many schools and in many areas of this district over those 33 and a half years. My wife, Diane, was a high school counselor. Both my children were educated, and I now have 2 grandchildren being educated in this district, so I have a great deal of investment in it. I'm a truly independent candidate. Thank you.
thank you. And if we'll just wait till the timer resets. Oh, have you started? Let's restart. Okay, Erin's going to help. Go.
Hi, I'm Gareth Lockhart. This is a very unique job interview. I've never had this many people before, so wow, thanks for showing up for that. I'm a local first responder. I'm a firefighter. I am doing this for my kids. I would really like to have some representation on the board that has somebody that has kids right now in the system that we can see through their future. I bring to you a local government leadership development, formal education, as well as experience lobbying and working with various levels of government on public safety issues for first responders and the public. Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll wait for a reset. Are we ready? You just got to give me when you're ready. Go.
Hello, my name is Joel Neufeld. I've been married for 12 years to my wife Megan, and we've got our daughter Brinley. She goes to the Langley Fine Arts Elementary School, and I'm a first responder. I have been for 13 years, and I'm just excited to come to the board and bring a passion of community engagement and public service. Thank you.
And I'm just going to remind the speakers to keep the mic very close. Go.
Hi, good evening. I'm Suzanne Pro. I'm returning trustee hopeful. I have been deeply rooted in our district for the last 10 years, serving on our Langley DPAC as 3 years president, 3 years on the executive. I'm a provincial and national advocate for disabilities, and I have 3 children that I've just graduated out of the system. We're a neurodiverse family that sits in the conversation of intersectionality. My focus is on equity, diversity, and access safely into our educational systems as a whole, not just our district.
Thank you. Go.
And my name is Rod Ross. I've been on the board for 29 happy years, and I'm looking forward to being returned. Now, why would someone want to do this for 29 years? You'd think I'd want to graduate. But seriously, I look at the problems that we have, specifically in the Willoughby area, and that's drawing my attention. There's so many issues that we need to look after. Our facility issues, our challenges on the slope are just going through the roof. As I've said on my website, 2 kids come from 100 condos. 7 kids come from 100 condos. When no one can afford a townhouse, all they can afford is a condo. We're going to see those numbers go through the roof.
Go.
Hi, my name is Neil Turner. I'm a resident of Langley for over 45 years. Married, have 3 adult children that have graduated through the Langley system. currently an assistant professor at Trinity Western University in human kinetics. Spent my life on the soccer fields. I've now 5 grandkids, and they're my motivation for serving in this community in the education field now off of the soccer field. My background in a master's in performance analysis helps me look at data, structure, and systems. So I think I bring that to the table to look at the existing systems to provide some outside view to hopefully help improve our education system.
Go.
Hi, my name is Stacy Wakelin. I have been living in Willoughby with our 2 children for 17 years. We are just about to graduate our daughter and will have had 2 graduates come through this district. I assist in operating our family's small business in the township, and I'm running because I have a passionate belief that public education is the greatest equalizer in society. It is one of the best ways to solve inequality in our society as well. I've sat on local boards, and I am number 6 on the ballot.
And thank you for that. I appreciate that. So if anybody else has their phones on, please make sure you turn them off. And go.
My name is Marnie Wilson. I'm running for re-election. I have lived in Langley for the past 22 years. I've parented 2 children through the Langley school system. I've been an employee in the Langley School District as a special education assistant, and I was president of CUPE 1260, the union that represents support staff in our district. I've seen the school district from several different perspectives, and it's made me realize the importance of consultation, collaboration, and transparency. I am passionate about education and committed to listening to what the needs are and looking for progressive solutions. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we are now going to move on to the next portion of the program, which is the question and answer period. So the questions that we are using this evening were questions that were collected on the Fort Langley Community Association website, or they were provided as people were coming in. And so we have them in a box. They will be randomly selected. We will also randomly select the first responder, and then we will go along and 3 other candidates will also respond to that same question before moving on to the next question. So I'm going to remind candidates to make sure you still state your name at the beginning. You will again have 45 seconds to respond. The yellow card will come up at 30 seconds so that you know you have 15 seconds remaining. And I'm going to read out the question twice each time we have a new question. And when you are going to do your timer, please look at Aaron, because rather than me say go, he's just going to give you the... Okay, so Gareth Lockhart-Kuth, you will be first. So we'll give you the mic. I'm going to read out the question twice, and then you can begin. So what issues do you believe the district needs to address in its academic program and offerings? What changes would you recommend? I'm going to read that again. What issues do you believe our district needs to address in its academic program and offerings? What changes would you recommend?
Thank you. So, Gareth Lockhart, hello. I find that when students are transitioning from a middle school into many of our communities, there needs to be a strong focus on continuing to provide them the academic offerings that some of our more mature schools have. It shouldn't matter where you live, it shouldn't matter where you live, but it shouldn't matter what school you go to. Every child should have the same opportunities to go and get that education that they want when they're making their way through the education system. When it comes to high school, though, there is a lot of great programs. This district has done a great job. Okay. We need to have more skills-based, and we need to stay modern within our approach, ensure that there's opportunities for our learners to grow in technology and other areas. Thanks.
Thank you. So the same question to our next candidate.
Hi, I'm Joel Neufeld, and I see that there is not equality in French immersion throughout the district. And I wouldn't call it so much of a change, but we need to look to hire more French immersion teachers. Thank you.
Suzanne Perot, what issues do I think need to be addressed? Well, we're looking at a mental health crisis right now as we're moving through and out of COVID, and so that becomes a very paramount conversation when we're looking at being able to have students ready to learn and educators prepared to lead. So that becomes a central conversation for myself when I'm looking at work that I do in and out of this district, and having that wellness of social emotional development occur in the classroom so that we can continue to move forward to creating citizens that are graduating out, that feel secure in themselves and the world around them. Right now we're facing barriers with teachers in space, so that ponies up right behind that conversation.
I think I have the same question, do I? Okay. So first of all, I want to say that the Langley School District is a great school district on its way to being a world-class school district, and that's why I do what I do. What I'd like to see us improve on is service learning. When we look at all the problems we need to have more engagement with the community. Our students need to get out into the real world and touch the seniors. Anything we can do to engage them in service to our community so everybody wins.
So we're going to change the question now, and I will read it twice. So the next question is there a particular issue that motivates you to serve on the Board of Education? So I'll read it out one more time. Is there a particular issue that motivates you to serve on the Board of Education?
My name is Neil Turner again. I am also a resident up in the Willoughby area, so the issues of obviously the busyness of that community and the buildings that we need to put there to make sure that we have spaces for our students. My motivation is, because I have grandkids that are going to be going into the school system, and I want to make sure that we're ready. I talk about not just a long-term plan for facilities, but a long-term plan. We have to think further down the road. And so issues with facilities help us to think about governments and working with multi-level governments.
Stacy Wakelin. As I mentioned earlier, I believe that public education is one of the greatest ways to address inequity, inequality in our society. So that has always been deep in my heart when approaching this role. I have been someone that has volunteered voraciously in this community to address inequality, inequity. So when I decided to run, mental health challenges first and foremost. We come from a family with lived experience, and I believe our schools can do better to support children to succeed. Thank you.
My name is Marnie Wilson, and what motivates me is people. I've always been a fierce advocate for people, whether it was my role as a parent, a special ed assistant, or in the union. When I see another parent struggling, and I can sense the fear and anxiety when your child is recommended to school-based team. I can relate to teachers or SEAs when there's been a violent incident in the classroom. I am fiercely protective of people and maintaining their dignity, and that's what motivates me to continue in this role.
Okay, so we're going to change it up a bit before Holly answers. We're going to give a new question, and I will read it again twice. Sorry, I can't see you, Holly. What should your school district do to better prepare students as citizens? So I will read it out a second time. What should the school district do to better prepare students as citizens?
Okay, hi, I'm Holly Dickinson. I think that we can look for ways to increase the availability of choice programming that prepares students for our workforce. I would also love to see schools that work towards offering more green initiative programs and career paths that will be into a green future. My biggest dream, which I know is just a dream, but I would love to see swimming lessons come into classrooms and to have all of our students have access to swimming programs. But I'll settle for building some new schools for now.
And I'll just remind everyone that we're not applauding today because we're trying to keep things rolling. Thank you.
Is that part of my speech? No. Thank you. Charlie Fox here. To build better citizens, I think we have to start at the top. We have to model good behavior. Citizenship starts at the board level, moves to the school and the classroom. We have to engage our students in discussions and group sessions to discuss ideas, thoughts about how we can better implement programs and ideas like Kindness Day, which happens in several schools. Involvement, get our students involved in the decision-making process. I was part of the youth committee in our school district when I was on the township council. You know, we did a great thing. The hub, which sits down on 62nd and 203rd, is the result of a student-involved discussion that I took to the township, and we actually saw it come to fruition.
Question now? Okay.
Okay, so I love this question because I came from an education system, we're good, yeah, that allowed me the opportunity to become a firefighter because I was placed in a career prep program. What I think our district does a fantastic job of doing this, but I think what we could do is create more opportunities to liaison with community groups and stakeholders, but also create information sessions for local jobs, local hobbies, local volunteer opportunities, so that we can open up these connections within the community by working with some local leaders, some local business owners. We can create mentoring and employment opportunities. And then it also helps just engage within the community to give them a sense of where they've come from and give them a, almost like a building block into their own community, a little bit of skin in the game and awareness of where they are.
Hi, I'm Joel Neufeld. I think that we need to continue to promote and to teach social emotional learning, equipping students with the right tools to cope with everyday challenges. And we're looking at self-motivation, time management, problem solving, and relationship building. I think those are key to building students who are going to be citizens that will give the best that they can do as citizens. Thank you.
And we're just going to change the question now. So the next question is, describe your top 3 objectives if you are elected to the school board. So the question is, describe your top 3 objectives if you are elected to the school board.
My top 3, Suzanne Perot, my top 3 objectives remain consistent and steady with the work that I've been doing in our district for the last 10 years. It's focused heavily on access, equity, diversity, and inclusion, surrounded around the conversation of emergency preparedness and how we can have a district ready in the event that the big one comes, when it happens, not if, it's when, and ensuring that we have proper communications flowing around those conversations. When we look at those top 3 objectives, they become critical to the wellness in the classroom. They become a very essential component of that mental health, social, emotional well-being for both educators and students alike.
Thank you. It's Rod Ross again, and my 3, I'm going to give you 2, because I want to talk long about them. We grew by 900 students last year. Surrey grew by 900. This year, it looks like we'll grow by 900 again. That's a school a year. That's a middle school per year, and we need to really work on getting facilities, and that's really a number 1 for me. Secondly, I really want to see us create a business incubator to give hope, long-term hope to the community, that kids can come up with ideas and their ideas can be incubated and they can actually see those come into fruition. And that's what I'm going to put my time and energy into.
Okay, again, Neil Turner. My top 3 objectives, as I've been at the board meetings and I've attended 4 live and watched a number of them during the COVID time online. One of the things I've seen is some great ideas come to the board. But what I feel is that we lack some data behind how we're actually doing. So I want to look at some systems where we can look at projects that we have and see if they're actually working, to put some data and some understanding to it. And if they're not, how do we refine them to make them better? The second thing is, obviously, I mentioned already, cooperation of multi-level governments to get the facilities. And the last one is to encourage families to become more involved in what's going on in the school education system here in Langley, to be more informed.
And we're going to change the question. So the next question is, as a board member, where would you look to make budget cuts? And are there any areas... I had to get to this question.
This is a fun one.
And there's another and part that's really important. And are there any areas you would not consider cutting? So again, the question is, as a board member, where would you look to make budget cuts? And are there any areas you would not consider cutting?
Stacy Wakelin, and oh, this is a fun question. So I'm realistic. I know that cuts have to be made. What I would love to see before those cuts happen is, have we as a district been as efficient as possible? Are we doing efficiency audits regularly? So immediately my brain goes to our bus routes. We have walk limits that are probably too great and apparently not enough buses, but have we examined whether the bus routes we're using are efficient? I'm exceptionally against cutting supports for students that enable them to access education. I'd fight hard for that one.
Marnie Wilson, and I also don't love this question because we do a lot with a very little. So the budget is usually very stretched. 90% of it goes to wages, so that leaves very little to operate with. So I guess if I had to cut from somewhere, I would say when we refurbish or renovate a building, we often put some really nice furniture in there, and I'm always like, did we really need that furniture? And I could see that being spent better on just refurbishing what we've already had. So I would do that, and I would never cut student resources.
And we're going to do that question one more time.
Okay, Holly Dickinson. I think that we need to look at cuts to practices rather than programs. I think that we need to look at where we can reform some of our budget. I think that we also need to look at if building a school is a provincial line item and they don't build schools large enough, why are the cost of portables being downloaded onto individual districts to the tune of $200,000 a portable? That comes out of Langley School District's budget. This is simply unfair to growing districts, and we need to advocate hard for a change to that practice. I would never consider cuts to programming for diverse learners, mental health, or food programs.
And we're going to change the question. The question now is, what is your vision for education in this community? What is your vision for education, excuse me, in this community?
Thank you, Charlie Fox. My vision is that every child meets their potential in a safe and inclusive learning environment to meet the needs of all students and families, and to have the school to be the hub of the community, the center. That's where people want to go. I want it to be a happy place where people want to go to. I want to engage all stakeholders in a discussion on issues and ideas that they may have and want to share. Lastly, to have world-class teachers and administration in every classroom and school in this district. I think this district is extremely well run or highly regarded, and Don Tomlinson retired and our actual rating went up.
I expected something at some point.
So, Gareth Lockhart, I cannot say anything better than what Charlie has just said, except for the last part. But it just makes sense. Like when someone says something right, that it's right. So my vision is the same. It's for education in the community, that there is no barrier for students that are put up. Each student should have the same access as the next. And we have to ensure that all of our learners can be successful and have the opportunities that promote their academic, their physical, and their emotional growth. And I think that this gentleman here just spoke to it. I have nothing better to say than that. Thank you.
Hi, Joel Neufeld. I would dream of a school district that promotes education where every child truly matters. Every child is included. There are no barriers and is safe, both mentally and physically, where shootings happen right across the street from the school and no child is harmed. I think Gareth, Charlie, you guys spoke well to it. I'd like to just say that we do need to work where every child is included. Thank you.
Suzanne Perot, and I'd like to just raise my hand to the comments that just came, because it's a very central part of why we do what we do. When I think about safety, when I think about my vision, safety for all students and staff is absolutely paramount, supporting our students to move towards that diversity, equity, and inclusion, where we're looking at leadership both in and out of the school as how we model through our instinctive desires to mirror and model that leadership to our children in our actions, our behaviors, our words, and so that we can elevate the conversation what human dignity looks like, and children have that experience of ensoling our schools through their gifts, abilities, and passions to succeed out, to be functioning citizens in our community who feel safe and are able to participate on an equal footing.
Okay, new question. Is there anything that can be improved within the Langley School District's jurisdiction to provide inclusion and education opportunities for students with diverse abilities? I will read it out one more time. I know.
Should have given this one to Suzanne.
You couldn't get that question. Is there anything that can be improved within the Langley School District's jurisdiction to provide inclusive and education opportunities for students with diverse abilities?
Thank you for the question. And to give you the answer, she's the inclusion person on the board, and inclusion, she lives this stuff. When I look at what we can do to improve, one of the things I think we could improve on is our SEAs. And from my observation is that SEAs work typically a 5-hour day. And that's really a part-time job for many. So I think the one way to improve the system is to create opportunities where they can work full-time and get a full-time wage. Don't know how we're going to do that, but that's one of the things that we could do to improve.
So Neil Turner again. Yeah, this is an interesting question, because as we've seen projects come into place with inclusion and diversity, what we've seen is, I think what I want to look at is how are we measuring again the success and that we're creating that environment as resources go in. Again, we've already mentioned the budget, that there's only a certain amount, so adding more and more services is quite difficult for us. And as a new person potentially coming to the board, I want to investigate again that budget to take a look at where we can actually improve. But finally, what I'd say is what we've got to do is really take a look at this us and them in the classroom setting and how we can break that down in all areas in the classroom.
Stacey Wakelin. I'm going to approach it just from a little bit of a different perspective. We are incredibly fortunate to have a lot of experts already in this district, and I'm talking about those doing the work. So is every action that we're taking, every decision that we are making, are we consulting enough with the experts in our district? I'm talking about parents, I'm talking about stakeholders, teachers, everyone that is involved in exactly what we're talking about. I think that comes back to ensuring that communication is adequate, and that will ensure that we are more successful and meeting the needs of our students.
And we're going to move on to another question. And I noticed that there's a number of people that have just come in. I just want to remind everyone to make sure that their cell phones are turned off, please. So the question is, what do you see as the major issue facing the Langley School District? Again, what do you see as the major issue facing the Langley School District?
Great. I actually see a couple of issues. Mental health being one of our biggest, and the pandemic just absolutely escalating that. Teacher shortages are a real issue, and overcrowding. I would love to see more resources for vulnerable students, and I want many, many, many more counselors and psychologists in our school district.
Hi, I'm Holly Dickinson. There's a couple big issues that we're dealing with right now, and I think the biggest one is Langley's rapid growth. That means an influx of new students with no place to put them. There are no major projects currently approved to increase the spaces needed. We anticipate the same amount of growth next year. There's going to be a lot of work that needs to be done very quickly in order to play catch up. We're also facing inflation issues that are going to cause major issues for both the board's budget and families. In times of uncertainty, at some point, we may need to reevaluate to ensure that our students' most basic needs, such as food and shelter, are being met. And we also need to ensure that there's monthly meetings occurring within the municipalities so that we can collaborate together for programs such as after-school programming and that families desperately need.
Thank you, Holly. Ready? Hi, Charlie Fox. One of the things, and I think it was mentioned earlier, each of us has strengths, I think, in the board. And one of the things that I'm very concerned about is the budget. The student allocation has not changed in a number of years. And this is a serious issue. $7,880 per student hasn't changed in a dozen years. It's not good enough. I sit on the Finance and Audit Committee in the district. I sit on the BCSTA Finance and Audit Committee, and we also in Metro Vancouver. The problem's the same. The Ministry of Education has to change the funding formula. We need greater stakeholder engagement as we bounce back from COVID. That's one of the big things I'm hearing constantly. And we need to deal with the universities and the teacher shortage and get them prepared for today's classroom, because today's classroom is very, very different than it was pre-COVID and before that.
Thank you. And we're going to end this part of the evening. Looking at the time, we're going to adjust. So you were only going to have 30 seconds to close. You're going to have 45 seconds now, the gift of time, whether you like it or not. And we're going to draw for the person that is going to do their closing first. Charlie Fox. Back at you.
Thank you. I get a double dose here. Thank you.
So we're going to do 45 seconds. You'll get, again, the yellow card at 30 seconds.
Okay. Thank you. Charlie Fox. I moved here in 1973 to take a teaching position, and I've worked in schools and within schools for 49 years. The Langley School District has been my home, my job, my commitment for those past 49 years. I bring knowledge, passion, and commitment to the role of a trustee, which I've sat for the last 18 months. I'm here to support student learning. That comes first and foremost in my platform. Listen, collaborate with stakeholders, another important aspect of moving our district forward, and focusing on the continuing excellence that our public system in Langley School District presently presents. I've experienced it. I want to experience it again with my grandchildren, who I drive to school, pick up from school regularly, and I'm independent with no ties to other candidates or electoral organizations. Right there. Nonverbal.
And again, we're going to ask people not to applaud as we're moving along. Thank you.
Until you can applaud for me, that'd be great. Okay, so my name's Gareth Lockhart. Just really happy to help volunteer and be part of the community. I think we're gonna have an amazing, diverse group on the board, And I think I could represent the parents that are having the school-age children into the system right now. I really just want to be part of the future growth of what Langley is going through. Somebody that has skin in the game, but also brings you the experience of local government. I do have formal education in local government, leadership development. I do have a decade of experience lobbying and working with successfully the federal, provincial, and municipal governments on health and safety initiatives for first responders and the public. I want to bring that experience now into the education world of Langley and make that difference that we were able to make on the other side. So thank you very much for your time.
Hi, I'm Joel Neufeld, and I ran in the by-election, and all of our all-candidates meetings were done via Zoom. And sitting in front of you guys, it's honorable, it's a lot of fun, but I prefer the Zoom. I prefer just wearing just the top, just the jacket. And then, of course, having Suzanne follow me with wonderful words and vast experience for sure makes me feel like I need a little bit of work. But I'm Joel Neufeld. I am running with Contract with Langley, an amazing team that's going to do amazing things. So a vote for the contract is a vote for your children. Thank you.
Thank you, Suzanne Perot. Before I begin, I want to acknowledge our elders that entered into our space tonight, and I thank you for being present and supporting us. As an individual who has worked with the Langley School District for 10 years, I have a deep-seated passion that's demonstrated commitment and grit to stick to the focused vision that has been put upon me and my gifts and abilities to push that into our district and also to push it up into our ministry, which I have successfully done on one motion to remove isolation and seclusion rooms in our district and provincially. And so when you hear me talk about safety and inclusion, we're talking about that because it's a systemic barrier that has trailed out from our residential schools and is still present in our schools today, bringing harm to our children. And I endeavor to succeed at continuing pushing the conversation forward so that our schools are safe for our children so they can learn.
I would clap for you. Rod Ross, and why vote for me? Well, when it comes down to the future, I'm very concerned. And I think we need to look at the school district and our community, including the township, in a new way. Innovation has to be central to what we do. We can't continue just to do what we've always done because the world is changing and we need to adapt. And so I really hope that my idea of my suggestion of having a business incubator would be embraced by mayor and councils. So that might be a good question for you to discuss with the people that are coming on after me. But I want to say, first of all, that I love this district, and I would work with anyone on this board. They're all good people, and I look forward to the opportunity of serving you again. Thank you.
Hi again, I'm Neil Turner. I'm a dad, a papa, a soccer coach, and a professor, as I've said before. I've spent my over 40 years serving the soccer community, volunteering and working with children in this community. I'm excited to move over to a more serious pillar in our society of education, to be able to serve, and that's what I'm looking at coming in, as to bring some of the skills that I have to serve this community. I have a photo on my phone here of my 2 grandchildren who went out and put my signs. And they're my motivation to serve this community and to serve the other children and students within this community. Thank you.
Stacey Wakelin, I'd first like to thank everyone for being here tonight. There's a great turnout, and that's exciting. My website is staceywakelin.com because I only have a few seconds here, but I hope you have felt my heart and my passion for this role for public education. I view it as an extension of community service that I have already participated in, and I'm excited at the potential at sitting at this board. And I'm going to pass it over to Marnie. I would love to chat with any of you, and thank you again for joining us tonight.
Marnie Wilson. I want to thank the Fort Langley Community Association for hosting this event tonight. I encourage everyone to do your research on the candidates, even if you don't have children in the school system. The children are our future, and we need to have a board made up of people who are dedicated to education. I hope I can count on your support October 15th. I'm number 7 on the ballot, but number 1 in your heart. I just added that with my extra 15 seconds, so thank you.
All right, I'm Holly Dickinson. I believe that education is the cornerstone of all great communities, and to value education is to value your citizens. Education is my life. I love it. It's everything that I talk about. It's what I do during the day, and I would love to have the opportunity to do this at night as well. I believe that my experience and passion and working daily in the system will be an asset to the board so that they will have real-time feedback of what's happening on the ground. The CWL team decided to run together because we share many of the same passions and visions for Langley schools. We wanted to dream big and look for ways to continue to guide Langley's board in the direction of progress and innovative policies. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, candidates. First of all, I want to apologize that we didn't have time to get to all of your questions that you had either submitted here tonight or online. And any that were submitted that were specific to a candidate were not used because that didn't fit the format of this evening's program. We are going to send the questions out to all of the candidates. So all of the questions that we have, we are going to give the candidates the opportunity to respond in writing, and then we will post those on the Fort Langley Community Association website and its associated social media. So we're going to now, we are going to take a break before we begin with the mayor candidates, but it's also an opportunity if you have specific questions that you would like to ask the candidates. I'm hoping that they will stay around for a little bit while we're setting up for the mayor candidates so that you can have an opportunity to have a one-on-one with the candidates. I want to thank the candidates for coming out this evening. I know it's been a busy time. You've had a lot of invitations, and we wish everyone all the best. Thank you.